Alan, I got your name right one time, but that's it. So I'm not going to mess it up. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then I'll give the ugly American version. How's that?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. So it's Alan Versteeg, making tyranny of French. But there we go.
There you go. Us ugly Americans would call you Versteeg.
Yeah, that makes. I'm pretty used to it now. It was just Alan V, you know.
Well, I will link to you on LinkedIn so they don't have to get it right. They can just click. So Dutch origin in Johannesburg. Welcome to the
Yes.
Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
I'm great, man. Excellent. Best.
So you work with sales managers. Why do sales managers need any help, man? Look, you get your top performer, you yank them out, you promote them, let them berate all those other weak salespeople that weren't good enough to be a manager. They all leave. You recruit new ones. Then he's upset. The company misses numbers. Company fails. I mean, why even train a sales manager? They're not going to be around very long.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. We need to train them because if we don't train them, we can't blame them, right? And the reality is,
I like that.
yeah, training and sales management are not the same job. You know, knowing how to cook a great meal doesn't mean you can run a great restaurant. Knowing how to style someone's hair doesn't mean you can run a great hair salon. Knowing how to run a team and execute through others is a different skill set. And as you alluded to previously, probably the extreme shift is the one from, let me just do what I've got to get done. This isn't rocket science, just push through, to now we're going to get that done through others. And what happens is high levels of frustration. I go from a decrease in earnings, a frustration with my team, trying to be the star player, not the star coach, and that's not sustainable. You know, sheer effort has a ceiling.
Yeah, but it's universal. I mean, people. So I'm in charge of a group in my church. I'm the HOA president. Both of them I started almost the same time. Both of them are coming up on 3 years. 3 years this month in my HOA, starting the third year at my church group in June. And I tell people all the time, it's much easier to run a group than to be in it, like taking orders, if you will. Because if you know how to delegate, kind of motivate, right? Read the room, assess who's got the attributes for certain things and assign, and then step back and get out of the way, it's easy. But that never seems to happen, does it?
Well, I think one common sense is seldom not so common. It's not common practice. But the other thing that's there, and what I love that you've shared with, is when we focus on the soil, the seeds are easy to manage. The challenge is when we move into a sales management role, a lot of it is going, guys, but there's the number, there's the target, there's the quota, go after it. It's not hard to do these things. And what we don't realize is even if we've had good leadership and management training, there's nuances in sales management. But you don't learn how to nurture a healthy pipeline in leadership training. You don't learn how to forecast accurately in leadership training. You don't learn how to hold Prima Donna sales performers accountable in leadership training. So even when we have a good leadership skill and we can build that soil, and you're so right, Wes, when we take care of the soil, everything else becomes exponentially easier. But it's not a natural state for a top performer. You know, you've pointed me in a direction, you've gone out there, been able to perform, but now I have to take on this different responsibility as a manager and leader. But when you get it right, it's not overly complicated because you've unlocked the potential of the seeds.
So you're talking about prima donna salespeople. You talking about? Have you been reading my LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, definitely. No, not at all. I think the key challenge and why I bring that up is there's a strong challenge that sales managers are facing when we understand there are some key disciplines we need to establish, but we don't establish those because there are some rogue salespeople who are even sometimes high performers, but they could be damaging the brand or damaging the team. And the reality in the sales team, and you probably learned this in the military, is when you're not in control of that, you're just a guy in charge, you're not the leader. You're still on that team that I will follow first as one of my peers if I think that they're the person I need to mimic. So the key thing is you got to continuously work on that culture and make sure you're protecting that benchmark of excellence. And it's not merely let's just get the number, because you have to get the number by executing the strategy through your people to drive customer value. And when we only operate sales as a coin-operated system, we break down all those other areas. And listening to some of your podcasts and some of your talks, one of the things you talk about is we don't have to be aggressive, we don't have to be a prima donna. It's not overly complicated. Manage the soil, not the words you use, but manage the soil, and we unlock that potential. But it's easy for a company to be hijacked or held hostage by a top performer that is negligent of value and negligent of the value system of the business.
But what if it is a top performer? I've seen that a lot. They're top performers, so they let them kind of run amok, and they want to run them out, but like everything is connected. They don't have a culture of recruiting, so they don't have any bench strength, so they are held hostage, but that person is slowly poisoning everything else. I mean, it's like this catch-22, and then companies just collapse. I mean, what do you do with these prima donnas?
Always, I think you answered the question. Add some context to it. You can't when you don't have a bench. I mean, this as being a salesperson. When you've got a healthy pipeline, you can fire the wrong customers early. I don't have to dance to every single customer's tune when they're not being respectable, when they don't see the value I can bring. I don't need to beg people for business. If I believe that I have value to add and have a healthy pipeline, I can be more selective of who I want to work with as a sales professional. As a sales manager, to sit at the same boat. But somewhere we've forgotten that that's our job. Our job is to find, recruit, develop, and retain that key sales talent. And if you don't have a bench, then unfortunately you look in the mirror, because you're not going to be able to get rid of that prima donna. And the way we explain it, that hostage take care, if you would, is the first thing to do with hostage take is you have to get someone that you have to develop a eager developer up. And many times there's this Hollywood view that we can just hire the top performing sales talent. And the reality is we have to create the environment that makes it happen and develop those individuals, because we just think we can hire the heavy hitter. And the risk is we can hire a heavy hitter and they can destroy the culture of the team. So you answer the question, unless you have a systemic, disciplined view of building a sales bench, then you're always at mercy of the hostage take.
Yeah, I've always told my sales manager clients that their number one job is to recruit, and they think I'm crazy. I am crazy, but I'm not wrong.
I love it. It's so true. And I love the metaphor I use. I always say, always be recruiting. Be on LinkedIn. If you see someone that resonates with you, even if you're not hiring, reach out to them and say, hey, I work for a company XYZ. We'd like to meet with you and see you. There's nothing available right now, and I'd like to build my network. And just that habit of having people come in and out your office and that you're interviewing creates a certain benchmark in the team that they're going, Wes isn't hanging around for when we get to where we're going to get to. He's always looking at the match. But if you think about this in sports terms, if you got no one on the bench, you're stuck with the players you have.
Amen. So people always misconstrue this, though. They're like, we don't have room. We're not hiring. I don't have allocation for a new person. So what do they do if they find a top new talent, but there isn't an opening? Do you fire a low performer?
Well, the key thing is there's two views on this. So there's a low performer who doesn't have a growth mindset. They don't have the willingness to learn. They are not responsive to your coaching. They're not responsive to your development. I call them the leavers. They're already moving them out as well. They're a lot easier to move out because they're not there. But my frustration is when sales managers don't have their house in order. They aren't coaching on a consistent basis. They're not developing their people. They're not holding them accountable to lead expectations. They're not motivating them in that space. And they're going, you've got it, crazy, hit it or don't hit it. So I believe that there's a lot of talent that sits in the sales team. And the only way I can explain is to share my story and hope your listeners don't drop off. But I went into electronic engineering. Not my whole I'm Dutch, and I grew up watching Airwolf, Knight Rider, and MacGyver. So I thought I'd be doing something in that field, right? And I read a book called "You Want an Original, Don't Die a Copy" by an American pastor called John Mason. And one of his chapters, he said, if you're passionately ain't what you're doing for 2 weeks, you need to stop. There's only one turn on this life. And I've been hating it for 2 years. Obviously, I invested in it. I studied for it. My dad passed away when I was 12, but my mom and 3 sisters were very proud I was an engineer. And it wasn't working for me. I went into sales and, I got fired from my first 4 sales jobs. And my frustration was I was doing everything they told me to do. They said you needed to know your product, and I was the world's best talking brochure. And you're my product pack. Then they said, oh, you're not motivated enough. I was the world's most passionate, best talking brochure, but I wasn't selling. And as an engineer by trade, I don't believe that someone's born as a natural salesperson. I'm wired to see cause and effect. And it was when I had one manager, and listen to these words of advice, where he said to me, oh, you've been really trying to hack it at the sales thing. Is this a job or a career? And I said, well, it's a career. And he says, okay, and a career is a profession. And I said, yes. I said, good. How long have you studied for this profession? I said, what do you mean? I said, well, how hard did you study to be an electronic engineer? Do you think you can just rock up in your first job interview and you know what you're doing as an electronic engineer? How do you expect the same from sales? He said, you must remember something. And doctors practice, lawyers practice, and sales professionals practice. This is a lifelong profession. When you shift your mindset, and then everything will change. And she found a way to unlock the potential in me. The same guy that got hired 4 times, hit the number 1 salesperson in that industry for 4 years that followed. And it wasn't a skill change. It was a mindset change of, you know what? I can't dabble. I can't just rock up. I've got to show up. But we underestimate the power of those managers. So we look at the team and go, well, you're in sales. You should be good at it. You know what it's like. It's not rocket science. And if it's a practice, we've always got to be coaching it. We've always got to be supporting it. We've always got to be driving it. And here's the punchline for me. Every single lead I speak to, sales leader, sales manager, sales enablement business leader says, we've got to be coaching. All the research says that coaching is the number one thing we can do to drive behavior change. Yet, it's the first meeting cancelled and the last metric measured. You can't coach by mouse. And if we're not doing that, if we don't realize our primary job, as you said, is to recruit and grow their talent, to nurture those seeds, then we're at the victim of those that can hit the number regardless of what we're trying to do. And then we're held hostage.
So how did you change? So he hit you with this, right? Is this a job or is it a career? How much are you studying? Like what? So you're at a new job, you're failing. How did you turn that around?
It's interesting because I believe that we often with salespeople do this incorrectly. And I'm here the answer. The answer is I changed my meaning. I changed the meaning I associated to the profession of sales. And we are more loyal to our identity than we are to competency. And if you think about entrepreneurs, they don't get trained how to sell, but they have clarity of their value proposition, which gives them confidence and conviction of their value proposition, which gives them confidence out in the field, which develops the competence. And the minute I gave myself agency to be a professional, the minute I start viewing salespeople as the way Hollywood portrayed them, the minute I start making excuses for being a sales professional, the minute I changed my meaning and my identity, I already had all the stuff. I had the methodologies, I had the means, but there was an internal block where I didn't see myself and respect myself. I didn't give myself agency to create value to the world. Now let's fire all the salespeople and the economies of the world stop. I did the technology as a place to play, but we have a role to play. And that was what changed. It wasn't a competency test. And I'd read the books, I'd studied materials, I'd been on the training courses. It was a mindset change that only a manager can unlock in a person.
Yep, I get into that all the time. It's when I meet in person, and I'll do it online as well, it's not quite as good. I'll get like an index card or some sticky note, and I'll write the word pushy on the card. And I'll say, hey, when I say the word salesperson, salesman, what adjectives come to mind? And you'll get a couple of, Donnie do-gooders, optimistic, professional. I'm like, yeah, what's the real word? They're like, used car salesman, jerk, pushy. Thank you, pushy. It always comes up. And like you said, like they see it on TV, Wolf of Wall Street, and so they think that's sales and they're embarrassed. So their cards will say whatever. Account executive, evangelizer, I make dreams come true. And like, oh, you're a salesperson. So you mentioned early on Knight Rider and all that. Did you ever see History of the World? That comedy? Oh my gosh, I got to look it up. But I got to look it up. Stand By. It was with all the great names back in the day. I'm pulling up IMDb. History of the World. Well, Mel Brooks. Actually, they came up. So back then, they came up with History of the World in 1980. Mel Brooks, Gregory Hines, and they called it Part 1, and they never had plans to make a Part 2. They did it just to keep people in suspense. They literally came out with Part 2 last year. I haven't seen it yet. But, Mel Brooks, comedian. Oh, yeah. Gregory Hines, Cloris Leachman. Who else? Madeline Kahn. Oh, she was hilarious. But Mel Brooks is in line for unemployment, and he's a philosopher, right? And so, and the guy behind the, typical government employee, right? What's your profession? He's like, he gives this erudite, wonderful explanation, philosophy, and he goes, oh, bullshit artist. He takes offense, but it's like, that's how salespeople see themselves, right? I'm this pushy bullshit artist. And it's like, no, you're not. But we got to get that out of their heads, or nothing else matters until we get that out of their heads.
100%. We identify, like I said, we loyal side to identity, and if that's how we see it, then we romanticize the Wolf of Wall Street. It's this missive of the actual profession of selling. There's a wonderful book called Selling with Noble Purpose, and it highlights that top performing salespeople in the world sell with noble purpose. As I like to say, selling won't help and helping will sell. And the reality is, and here's the challenge with, we don't want salespeople to do. I'm yet to meet a sales manager who says, I want to push a salesperson. When you ask buyers why they don't buy, they don't mention behaviors, they mention the value traits. They're too aggressive, they're too pushy, they're too supply-centric. That's what they mention. Yet can I argue that is just a mirror of the sales management conversation? If I said to a salesperson, where are you at with your number? You need to go see more people. I mean, think about this, Wes, just for a moment. Hey, Al, your numbers look like this. You're seeing 10 people. You're getting 2 sales. We need 4 sales. Go see 20 people. I want to put that another way. Al, you suck 8 out of 10 times. I want you to go suck in front of more customers. I want you to damage your brain in front of more customers. I want you to be useless in front of more customers. We are managers asking questions like, Al, what specifically in the customer's business is going to change as a result of them working with us? Because if you want the behavior, you have to initiate the conversation. And that's what's breaking down in sales management. We become so auditing orientated, so numbers orientated. Even coaching's become, where are you? One of the models, but kind of where are you? Where should you be? What's the gap? What you going to do about it? Well, if I knew what to do about it, I'd go and do it. And sometimes it's not knowing what to do, it's coaching the how. It's getting me to believe in my confidence in myself and give myself the agency to go and do that. That's what leaders do. They unlock that potential within you. The Pygmalion effect. They see greatness in you, you don't see in yourself. But it's almost like we're going, well, wait a minute, this isn't rocket science. Of course it's not rocket science. It's much more complicated. Rocket science can land something 70 million light years away, 0 seconds late. That's predictable. Try work with human beings on a daily basis. But it's almost like we go, these are, one of my favorites, the leaders. So one of my favorites is when the leaders go, our challenge is ourselves, we don't have any proposition. And I go, great, what's your value proposition? And it's always classic to watch because there's this assumption that they're incompetent. And I'm going, but guys, are you really working on the soil? I mean, it's obviously my passion. Develop the sales managers because then you can develop and change people's family trees. But when you're not working with the sales managers, if you not teach them how to unlock potential in humans, then they just become great CRM jockeys. And that doesn't change human yet. And CRM is phenomenal. It's a wonderful tool. But understand the tool is useful. It's not there to manage human beings. It's there to have data you can use to coach so people can improve and perform.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic case of people failing up. It's never taught. People are just winging it. You get a great salesperson that whatever, right time, right place. They were hungry. They were motivated. They're a good people person. So they thrive. They hit their numbers. They get promoted. Everything collapses. Everybody's like mystified. But even, I always say like great talent is rarely a great coach. Like Michael Jordan wasn't a great coach. Kerr's a great coach. Because he was smaller, right? He was slower. He had to analyze. He had to be super smart to succeed in the NBA because he didn't have the natural attributes. So that makes him a great coach. But he had to break everything down, and so...
Yeah, you have to revert engineer success and then rebuild it.
Yes, yeah. It's crazy how obvious it is, but everybody misses it.
Well,
crazy world, huh?
It's exactly that. It's most things that are obvious, right? And the way I put it is we are so busy working on the enablement train that we have forgotten about the tracks of execution. And your tracks of execution of the maturity of your sales managers. And all the data says if you invest in your sales managers, you get a disproportionate return on that effort. But there's an assumption that surely they know how to do this because they were great salespeople. And I'm yet to meet an evil, nefarious, narcissistic sales manager that is just trying to destroy people's lives. They're trying to figure it out. But as you say, they're failing up. And why shouldn't we be shortening that curve? Because that's beneficial to the business, it's beneficial to the sales team, it's beneficial to customer value. But it's an often overlooked gap in this world of enablement. It's the next piece of technology, it's the next deployment of large language GPT models, it's all wonderful things. But managers are what drive growth and change, and we've got to invest in them, and we've got to help them. As I say, you don't train them, take them.
Yeah, people say, well, what if I train them and they get good and they leave? And it's like, well, what if you don't train them and they stay?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Very cool. So do you travel the world? Do you just do this remotely? I'm linking to your site.
Traveling the world before COVID, remotely after COVID, really, really blessed, and that's a good balance. We normally used to go to a country 3 times we ran out running like an MBA over a year. But now, we do the first one live, which is nice. I get to see the world, but then the others are virtual, so I get to stay with my family. As a father of 7, I know you know what that balancing act is like. But an interesting thing, right? 49 countries, and not all of them in person. I've been to 22 countries in person. But in the last 3 years, 40 managers in 49 countries. And the average answer to this question, which was, how many days have you gotten specific to sales management development? The answer is 0. Some said 2 weeks, some said I did an MBA, but the large majority was nothing. And that's across all cultures, all industries, massive global known brands, fastest growing companies in the world. So you just got to figure this out. And it's a tough job.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked under the hood of a lot of companies, big and small, and it's like the norm is they're just hanging on by the skin of their teeth. They're winging it, they're making it up as they go. It's unbelievable. That's the norm.
And you don't expect it, as you know, when you get to that car, when you look under the hood, you're like, what is going on here? And it's not our fault per se. I mean, a lot of these companies are driving the growth of the tech wave. They're riding that wave, and a lot of it was in the order-taking space. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that when they turns around and customers go, well, I really need to understand value, and I'm not just buying because you're this brand. We actually haven't equipped the salespeople for that because we haven't equipped the managers for it. Now, we're standing in obvious. The key point is, what do you do about it? Well, you start to fix the right end of the problem. I used to have the license for spin selling in Africa. So if you remember Dr. Neil Rackham and spin selling. And he had a wonderful quote. He said, in my embarrassingly long career, having worked with multiple companies in multiple industries, I can say that when working with the salespeople, I had a reasonable impact. But if I was working with them under a weak manager, no amount of training, no amount of consulting, and no amount of enablement had any sustainable impact. And this is where that difference is.
Yeah, I'll have sales managers say, oh, can you train my people? I'm like, you're just gonna drop them off like daycare, and I just fix them and send them back to you? Like I can, but what happens if I make them better than you and they come back and now you can't handle them, right? Like you better stay plugged into what I'm doing.
Exactly.
It will not work out the way that you think.
Well, I love that. It's actually exactly the right metaphor. It's what's expected. To assume that behavior changes in a classroom, awareness can change, meaning can change, but what can't change is behavior. Behavior has to be, feedback, failure, feedback, failure. And the quicker we do that, the quicker we learn. But I love that you say that as firmly as you do. I say it's slightly different. I say, I tell you what we do. Give me the check. I'll split it with you. We go have a great lunch. We'll both be happy. Because if we spend money just on this, in your language, if you're not staying plugged in, then there's no point doing this. It's not going to have the outcome you anticipate. I can't take them away and fix them. I can educate them to the level of awareness you need to coach them into a behavior change.
Yep. So good. So I'm linking to your site, Sales Growth Map.
That's great.
And if it doesn't load, put the www in there. So one day you and I will figure out why that is. So I always hear people go, www. I'm like, why do they say that? Well, maybe there's a reason, but I don't know. So what do they get there? What do they get on that page?
So they can download there's effectively a state of coaching. So 1,800 managers that we assess on the coaching. It gets you to see what those key challenges are. But on that same page, if you follow it, there's an opportunity to go to your own coaching review. So just reflect on your own ability to coach. And the reason we focus on that, it's a Pareto principle. If there's one thing you could be doing as a manager that will fundamentally drive performance change, it's one-on-one question-based coaching. And if you're not doing that, everything else you're trying to do can't get traction. So it's why we focus the kind of free gift and the free assessment there, because that's the area to just identify your blind spot. Or you're stuck in a model of telling, or you being Captain Obvious and saying you should do this and should do this and should do this and shooting all over people, or can you reflect and say, wait a minute, I'm in the area of my coaching I need to work on. And all the advice is there. So there's no date behind the advice. For each of the areas, will give you practical steps you can take to then improve that area.
Yeah, so you call it the Pareto principle or the burrito principle. You had a little accent there. I got kind of excited when I heard burrito. But
burrito like a burrito. Yeah, it is Adrian. Yeah, what on ways.
All right,
Burrito
Sales Growth Matters.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm going to take that here when we're done. So I'm take the assessment and then I'll download the copy. How about that? How about them apples? Well, it's dinner time for you, huh? Past dinner time.
That's it's 9 p.m. in the evening. All good.
Woo, that's my bedtime, man. All right, well, I'll let you get to bed. So, all right, so Alan Versteeg.
There we go. You're getting there.
Close.
You're getting the hand right. You're correcting the front, but it's good.
Oh, broke up there. All right, I got close.
You got it.
So I'm linking to you, though, so if people don't know how to spell it, just click the link. Follow you, connect with you, and get the report. Well, cool, man. Thanks for taking the time. It was good catching up.
Wes, thanks for sharing. Really appreciate it, and I hope it was valuable to you.
All right, have a great night.
You too. Keep up.